Okay, jumping right in, today we are doing press-ons and I'm actually using the Apres long square tips, but I did cut them down because I didn't want to do a full long length, and I don't have all the sizes in the medium squares. I feel like the longs just fit my nails better, and I'm going to prep them with the tip primer from Apres as well. And I'm basically just scrubbing that on to each of the tips. And the way this works is like it etches it chemically, and you'll be able to kind of see that. I tried to get the angle to be able to show you guys, but I ran through the rest of this prep. That's kind of how the rest of this video is going to do. I'm going to show you doing one, and then I'll go over the rest kind of in fast mode, but you can see the etching on this nail right here. When I first started doing press-ons, I used to just buff them with a buffer, and then I came across kind of doing this etching with the brush with acetone. So I did that for a while, but sometimes the acetone eats away at the tip a little too quickly or too fast if you're not careful. So I've absolutely been loving the Apres tip primer to do this part. Then I'm going in with my Cat number 2 polish. I believe they do have like a full range, but this is from their like nudes collection. I'm a big fan of mixing my nude bases, which in some ways is kind of bad because sometimes I don't remember my combos and sometimes they're really good combos, but in today's case I did do the Cat number 2, and then I used a polish from Chon Legend. And I basically did that because this color has a lot of pigment to it, so it's not going to be as see-through in the end. But I don't like how light of a pink, it's almost like light pink white almost. But I do really like the coverage that it has, so that's why I'm going in with the Chon Legend color afterwards, because that color has like a little bit more of a pinker tone. It's a little bit of a deeper pink as well, so I feel like it fits my skin tone a little bit better. Also, if I would have just done the Chon Legend by itself, I feel like, at least I haven't tried any of his newer nude releases, but his original nude releases, I feel like they're a little bit sheer, which I mean the nudes are sheer, that's fine, but almost too sheer, but almost not, because I do like layering them with other colors, so I'm almost okay with them being sheer. Just as a solid by themselves, it's a little bit too sheer. I am using the color I See You, and again, like I said, this just has like a nice pink color. I'm gonna show the difference between doing that first coat of the Cat Beauty polish comparing with the coat of the Cat plus the Chon Legend one. I do show it later on in the process, but I'm not polishing the very tips of the press-ons because, well, one, I already said I didn't fully shape them. I like roughly shaped them since I cut them down myself. But even if they had already came pre-shaped and sized, I guess, I always finish off with a finish file. You guys will see what I mean at the very end, but I am not worried about polishing the tips or capping the tips because I know I'm going to be doing that. Each of these coats is getting a full 60-second cure, by the way, and the bottom half is the one with the 2 coats, and then the top half is just that Cat Beauty, so you can see the difference right there. And I've been loving these translucent post-it notes as my paint palettes. I'm going with Chon Legend Persimmon as my red for this set. And I'm starting off by doing a French on the pinky. I am going to be doing a French on the pinky, ring, and index. I actually forgot that the ring finger was also going to have a French, so that's why it took me so long to do it. You'll see in a minute, but going into the French, I kind of just envision whatever French I'm trying to go for, if it's going to be a kind of more elongated almond smile line, or if it's going to be a little bit softer of like a 90s style French. I kind of wanted like a little bit of in between. I would say it's a little bit more almond, but kind of more rounded tip instead of kind of that pointy almond tip. And I don't really have like a guide. I just kind of go based off what I'm seeing in my head and go off of there. I probably should figure out a little bit more of a guide, just because sometimes I feel like I could take a long time on my French, but I do really like to refine it based off whatever smile line shape I'm kind of going for. And in general, I feel like doing French on press-ons is much different than doing French on a client because you're able to turn that nail 360 rather than on a client, it's either looking straight towards you, or if you flip their hand 180, then looking at you like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just kind of going in, refining, slowly filling in. I do like to fill in the tip with my brush, which you guys will see right here as I'm like just slowly kind of filling that in. I purposely like to do this because I feel like it gives a like nice even coat. You don't see streaks if you use the paintbrush like you would from the gel bottle. I feel like this just evens out and it allows the gel to layer out evenly. As always, I'm using my Brittany Tokyo liner, the great liner. It's the green one. Like I said before, it's the only liner brush that I use. I will say that the first French of a press-on set for me is usually the longest because this is the smile line that I'm going to be using as a guide for the next French to follow in this set. So I really try to refine it, really try to like mess around with the smile line and decide like, do I want it pointier? Do I want it more rounded? How long do I want it? I was keeping in mind that this set, the most of the design on the pinky and the index is in the French, so I needed to make sure that the French was going to be thick enough to have that design in there. I am doing a white French on the middle finger. I'm using French white from PLA to do that white French. Since I was going from such a strong color like red into white, I do dip my brush into white to load it up and then I'll wipe it off, and as you guys can see, it pulls out the red out of the bristles, so, or like out of the brush bristles, so that it can be full white and I'm not gonna have like any little red streaks in my white as I'm painting with it. For this design, the design that is going to be on top of the French isn't going to be within the French like on the red ones. The design is going to be a little star on top of the French, like sitting on the smile line. So I'm keeping in mind that I need it to be as thick as the red ones, one to look cohesive with the rest of the nails, but also to give me space to add the like little legs of the star that I'm going to be painting onto the smile line. I absolutely love a French set on myself, and when I was coming up with this nail design, it kind of came inspiration from a couple different pictures, and I kind of grabbed one and added in the other, and in the end, I didn't realize how most of the nails were going to be French until I started painting, and I was like, oh, you know what? Literally 4 out of the 5 on each hand is going to be French, and honestly, the thumb ends up being like a half French situation, so I just kind of found it funny. And also when I was painting, you're gonna see that I showed all of them except the ring without French, and then I was like, wait, the ring nail also needs to be French. I don't know what I was thinking, so that kind of comes a little bit later, like as an afterthought. I thought that was so funny how I unintentionally made it a full French design without meaning to. For the thumb, I am starting off with white. It is going to be like a peppermint swirl, and whenever I do peppermint swirls, I usually like to start with my lighter color. In this case, my lighter color being white because I'm doing a white and red peppermint swirl, and I'm just starting from that corner of the tip and then dragging it across all the way to like the corner of the cuticle, and then basically filling that in. I did try to have like a ever so slight curve to it. I didn't want it to be a complete straight line from one corner to one corner. I wanted it to have a little tiny curve to it. I felt like it was just gonna add, I don't know, like a little femininity to it. I feel like I tried to describe this in the last tutorial when I was doing a kind of candy cane, that I kind of like this like S motion or like a curvy motion to my candy cane looks. I feel like it just makes it look a lot cuter and nicer. And for this nail, because it was such a large amount of space that I needed to cover, I did go in with the paintbrush from the gel polish bottle, But like I said, I do like to kind of go over with my liner brush and kind of go over it with the liner strokes because it really just allows the gel polish to sit better and more evenly, so you're not getting like these like weird underneath gaps or like not a full coverage nail polish. I don't know. I hope you guys can see what I mean right here. I feel like it just like slowly evens out when you use the liner brush. Since I forgot that ring finger after the white being on my brush, I did go back to the red, which ended up working out because I had to use the red polish to go in and do this peppermint. So I did do a little bit of a curve, and I basically was like just imagining starting from the middle of my white line and curving it down like kind of a claw shape, and then just connecting it and filling it in. And then from there, I was able to kind of lay out my spacing for the next line and just follow that curve. Make sure I saw that I was referencing, they did do like a sugaring on this nail. I knew I didn't want to do sugaring. So with that in mind, I wasn't sure how I wanted to layer the colors. I believe that on the top and bottom of the design, it both ended with the same color. So in this case, it would have been white. But I did think it would look nice to end the bottom part with a white stripe and then the top part with red. So I did kind of have to like fill in that layer that was kind of already painted in for me, but it was an easy guide to go off of, so I didn't mind it too much. So if you're wondering about the polish like coming in and out on my transparent post-it note back there, I was doing these nails in between clients, so that's why there ends up being like different paint splotches on the post-it note. But I'm going into this nail and doing a snowflake. Actually, I'm doing two snowflakes on this nail. I did show this in the last tutorial, but it was a speed run through, so this is kind of slower breakdown. My snowflakes, I always start with a middle dot, and then I do 2 dots on top, 2 dots on bottom, 2 dots on the side, 2 more dots on the other side, and then at a diagonal of those dots I will put 1 dot, and then I will go in with my liner brush and connect all of those, and I'll always start from the middle dot and drag it out so that way I get that little fine tip point of a line. I feel like this is the easiest way to do this type of snowflake, at least. I know that there's so many different types of designs of snowflakes, but specifically for this one, this is like the fastest, easiest snowflake for me to do. And I feel like it's just easy to paint the dots all out and then just connect them. I feel like it also gives me the cleanest lines because it's already putting that polish for me to drag out for each line. Also, when I was placing these snowflakes, I was keeping in mind that I needed to have enough space for a bigger diamond or like rhinestone situation going on top. So I did try my best to kind of like squeeze the snowflakes close together and as close to the tip while still having their moment, because I did want them to be noticeable and not kind of like a something in the background of the full design. I did prefer my snowflakes to be a little bit of a daintier design on this one, but sometimes if I feel like the dots got lost in the lines when I dragged out the design, I will go back in before curing and add like an extra dollop of polish with a daughter tool. For my next design, I am doing plaid. I'm using 131 green polish from PLA, also called Under the Mistletoe. And I'm just adding my first stripe onto the red French, and I'm not going past the red French. And then I'm doing a cross pattern and kind of just trying to keep my design mostly on the left side of this nail. I was keeping in mind that I wanted the design to mirror the other nail that was going to be on the same hand, so the pointer and pinky are mirroring each other on the right hand and then vice versa for the other one. Sometimes with my plaid designs, I'll play around with like the thick and thinness of the lines to kind of add that kind of texture into the design, but I didn't have the liberty of doing this considering I was only doing the design onto the French tip part of the nail, so I kind of just kept the lines for the most part like all the same thickness. I will say I feel like I was like in a little bit of a rush doing this design since I was doing my nails in between clients and I wanted to film it all in one day. So if I had gone back, I definitely would have been a little bit easier on the polish or done this a little bit more kind of step by step, like do one line, cure it, do the next line, cure it, because your corners can get blurred just from the polish kind of pulling when they meet each line. And then this is me just showing you that if I did it on the left side of the nail for the pointer, then I need to do it on the right side of the nail for the pinky, because I want that design to mirror each other. But yeah, like I said, this design does have a lot of layering, so had I not been in a rush, I feel like I would have cured in between each layer or just been a little bit careful about how much polish I was putting for each layer. Next line, I'm using Hush Hush or number 198 from PLA, and I'm just doing one stripe on the other side of that lighter green polish that I used. So on this nail, the lighter green was on the right side, so I'm just using this darker green to do a line on the left side. And again, because I was in a rush, I did use this gold polish that I have from Born Pretty. If I'm being honest, it's not my favorite gold to use. If I wasn't rushing on time, I would have preferred to just do this with a chrome, but in the spur of the moment, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use the gold polish. It is a little bit of a thicker consistency, so it was a little bit more difficult for me to get an even line and then also to go over that other green line that you see me going over. So like I said, I definitely would have just done like a chrome moment if I wanted to add the gold. And then my final lines are gonna be just with a white polish from PLA. It's that same French white that I used, and that line is just gonna hug the dark green line and then go across above the lighter green line. I love doing a plaid moment, and the more layering that you do, it kind of gives that old vibe of like an older Christmas blanket. So I was trying to add as many layers as I could, but I also was working with a small French tip space to do it on top of. For the white nail, like I mentioned, we are doing a star design, so I did go in with that same Born Pretty gold polish. Like I said earlier though, I definitely would have done this with a chrome and done a chrome isolation to get that gold star on here, but I was just like, hey, I already have the polish out, I might as well just use it. So I put a little dot and then I dragged it out on the four corners, and then in between those four lines I did the diagonal of those in a smaller line. As you can see, I just feel like this polish kind of drags a little bit, so I was having a little bit of a hard time, but in the end we got it done. And as far as design, this is pretty much like the last thing that I needed for design. Then everything else is just rhinestones. I am using my McCart rhinestone glue to adhere all my rhinestones onto my nails. The rhinestones I'm going to be using for my design are from Sky Beads online, and I believe the brand is Lucida. I started using these rhinestones once I couldn't get my hands on Swarovski crystals anymore, but I've absolutely been loving them regardless. Colors I'm using are Golden Shadow, Light Siam, and Emerald. And I'm just putting a little bit of a dollop of that McCart rhinestone glue and then using the Golden Shadow rhinestone. I believe this is the size 5, and just giving it a quick cure with my little lamp before I put it in for a full cure to keep it in place. The ring finger was gonna have like a bigger rhinestone piece moment, I just went in with a nice big old dollop straight from the bottle to add on to the nail. And I added this, I believe it's like the teardrop shape of rhinestone. And then, actually, I don't think it's teardrop. I'm so sorry. I don't remember the shapes of these rhinestones, but I think the Golden Shadow one is a teardrop. And I added that on either side of that red one. And then I added the emerald onto the tip of the red rhinestone and then onto the tips of the golden rhinestones. I do like to play around with my placement, and I do make sure that I'm playing around with it and really getting it set into place of like where I want it before it hits the light, because once it hits light, it's over. But I do flash cure with my little light before hitting the big light, because when you have a bigger rhinestone, it is heavier, or if you have a lot of rhinestones, they start to get heavy for the gel to keep in place. So you want to flash cure it really quickly because it can move before it fully cures in the big lamp. So you kind of want to make sure you kind of have a little bit of a set in place before you do that full cure. Being honest, this like layout of this rhinestone piece wasn't my favorite that I've ever done. However, people have been seeing my nails since I put these on the other day, and I've been getting a lot of compliments actually. I don't know if it's just like the mix of the colors or it's actually the placement. Like I said, personally, it's not my favorite rhinestone placement that I've ever done, but it's cute. I deal with it. And honestly, even with the thumb placement, I kept going back and forth like, do I want a big rhinestone on the thumb as well, or do I want to go with a kind of smaller rhinestone situation? And in the end, I did pick a smaller placement or like a smaller design to go with, just because I kept thinking like, man, I still have a lot of things to do for Christmas that I'm kind of scared that I'm going to be like a little bit rough with my nails. And honestly, I even kept going back and forth if I wanted to even have nails for the holidays. But I really wanted to do this video for you guys, and I felt like just doing a freestyle nail set on myself was kind of the best thing to do. So I did go with a smaller emerald in the middle, and then just added little golden and light sam. When I added my little dollop to this nail as well, I did put the dollop of rhinestone gel with the bottle because I wasn't sure if I was going to do like a really big piece or not. But regardless if I had or hadn't, I do like to make sure I have enough gel covering like the edges of each of the rhinestones. It doesn't have to be an absurd amount where like after you cure you're still gonna see it, but you want it to be enough where it kind of pulls around the edges just so that you have less of a chance of something coming underneath the rhinestone and lifting it off of the nail. This is the finished set before top coat. I'm adding my Chan Legend non-wipe top coat, and I'm showing that the pinky, again, if I knew that this set was meant to last a really long time, I probably would have gone in with a thicker gel first, like a builder gel with a light layer to kind of even out all the layers of the lines on the plaid. But I didn't really care too much, so I just went in with my top coat. So you kind of do see a little bit unevenness of the lines, but honestly it's not anything too crazy. And then for the nails with the rhinestones, I am painting around the rhinestones. I don't want to put polish on top of my rhinestones. I definitely want to go all the way to the edge to cap in that edge, just like I was mentioning about kind of making sure that that gel is around the edges of the rhinestone. You want to do the same thing with your top coat just to really cap in those edges so nothing's kind of slipping underneath, like hair is getting underneath the rhinestone and popping it off. After I finish polishing on the nails, making sure I get on the side walls and like the cuticle area, I do a full 60 seconds. Like I mentioned, even to this point with the top coat, I do not top coat the tip of the nail because I'm going to do a finish file, which you guys will see in a second. So I just hold the tip with a gloved hand. I really make sure that the hand that is holding the nail has a glove on it. Also, I usually work with gloves, but for whatever reason this day I was not putting gloves on, but I do hold the nail with gloves because I don't want my like oils and my fingertip to press into the nail even though it's cured. Like if I was gonna put these into a box for a customer, I don't want them being like all nasty with my natural oils for my hand. And then I'll just hold it at this angle, like a T angle to the file, and that just gives you the most crisp edge on your press-ons. I think it really just finishes off the nail and makes it look the like cleanest and sharpest. I did want to show me applying these press-ons. On my index, I did indeed split my nail in half with a box cutter. Don't recommend, but that is why that nail is the only nail that has builder. and I did have to file that off to apply these press-ons. I wouldn't say that this is a tutorial on how to apply press-ons. This was literally just me showing you applying them. But if you guys do want an in-depth tutorial on how to apply press-ons, and also in that same sentence, like how to take them off, I will definitely record that for you guys if you guys want to see that. But right here, I'm basically just trimming down my nails with the hand file. I feel like hand files are normally in a press-on kit, and making sure that I don't have like any little fray edges, because that will stick to the glue or like kind of lift up in the glue. And then I did prep that index to kind of file down some of the gel. I pushed back my cuticle. I did do my cuticle work with the Kiara Sky drill that you see there, and then I buffed my nails super lightly with the buffer, and this is what they look like after I finished buffing them. And then I used the Beauty Secrets nail glue from Sally Beauty, and then after I finished buffing the nails, I wiped them down with alcohol. Normally there's an alcohol wipe, but I forgot to bring one home, so I just used a towel and the alcohol bottle, as you guys saw. I am showing here that I do apply my nails from pinky to index, and then do the other hand pinky to index, and then leave my thumbs for last, just because the pressure that you use to hold down the nail, you don't want it to be like building up in your thumb while you do the other hand, if that makes sense. Like I said, if you guys want a longer tutorial, I could definitely do that for you guys. I do naturally have a gap in between my natural nail and the press-on tip, so I do apply a little bit more glue than I would recommend, but I do this that way when I flip my nail over, I can help the glue pull to the tip of my natural nail, and it like seals in the gap with glue, and I don't have like this weird gap in between my natural nail and the press-on tip, and the glue allows like nothing to get in between that gap as well. And like I said, I leave my thumbs for last, so I'm gonna do the whole other hand and then do my thumbs. But that's it. I absolutely loved how this nail set came out. I think it's super cute. I love the colors all together. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.